Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Allie, and I'm a member of the admissions committee here at CBS. I am joined by two of our wonderful current students who are going to tell you all about the Media Management Association, which you might hear referred to as MMA today. So just to give you kind of a quick overview of the agenda, I'm going to turn it over to them for a welcome and introductions, followed by a quick MMA overview, and then from there we are going to go into Q&A. So you can feel free to use the Q&A box below to type any questions that you have, and Alexandra and Malika are going to do their best to answer all of your questions. So thank you in advance, and without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to our students for introduction. So Malika, I believe you are up first.
Sure, thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here and introduce you all to the Media Management Association. So I am originally from New Delhi, India. I moved to New York about 9 years ago now, and I did my first graduate degree at NYU in Arts Administration. I spent some time working in the office of James Murdoch at 21st Century Fox, and that's kind of where my love for media came around. I spent my summer at business school interning at Viacom CBS Digital in the partnership marketing team, so really focused on Amazon, Roku, and the smart TV business. And now I am at NBCU working content distribution for the fall.
Hi, everybody. So nice to be here today. Welcome. My name is Alex Mangum. I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah, but have been in New York for quite some time. After undergrad, I actually lived abroad in Paris and worked for the New York Times in licensing and partnerships, and then made a bit of a pivot to working for a production company and creative agency. I moved back to New York. I took on the role of executive producer at a commercial production company here, and ultimately made my way back to school. This summer, I interned at Bungalow Media and Entertainment, and I'm thrilled to be here and looking forward to your questions. So I can start, Malika, and then you can jump in. So who and what is the Media Management Association? I think essentially we like to consider ourselves the destination for all things media at the business school. We are a bridge to the media and technology program and the curriculum that the business school offers related to media. So we help connect you to appropriate faculty members. And then we're also very much looking out externally to the professional world and supporting our students by connecting them to alumni who work in media, people who work in media even if they're not affiliated with CBS. We try to cover as many companies as possible because obviously media is extremely broad. So, you know, we have legacy media companies, we have streaming services, we have an increased interest in product management for media students. And we really try to satisfy all of those interests by offering speakers and events and series related to them, both in the form of, you know, guests just coming and speaking to students about who they are and what they do, as well as educational events where we try to really give you 101 sessions on content acquisitions or what the South Asian media landscape looks like. So yeah, that's what we are. And I think the biggest thing we do is really offer a network of peers, of friends, and of professional contacts for people who love, are interested in media, whether you are coming from it, which Malika and I both did, or whether you're looking to make a pivot into media, and CBS is sort of the way in which you hope to do that.
Yeah, and just, I think, Alex, you've covered pretty much everything, but I think adding to that, I think as the media industry really evolves and is becoming more tech focused, I think we are doing our best to find those interactions between media and tech. So even within our board, we have a 25-member board, we have media ventures. So if there are entrepreneurs who are focused within the media industry, we have the media tech vertical, as well as media entrepreneurship and TMT investing. So we really try and be the intersection of, like, whether you're in consulting or in investment banking, your interest within media. And as Alex said, it's really a group of people who are very passionate about the industry and want to stay on within it.
So I think this is where we turn to you guys, and if you can use the Q&A function, Malika and I will offer as many answers as possible. Don't be shy. Great question, Brittany. Let's answer this one live. So how does MMA support students during the recruitment process? Significantly. We offer, we just completed a second year internship recap panel so that you can learn how second years like Malika and I found our internship opportunities and what our plan is for recruiting this year. We are the liaison between the Career Management Center and the student body. So any media related opportunities that come to the Career Management Center are immediately broadcast to our club through Slack, through email, etc. We have career VPs on our board whose entire mandate is to be sure that they're keeping our students abreast of opportunities, both again, that come from the Career Management Center and outside of it. So media recruiting at CBS is what they refer to as enterprise recruiting, which really means you really have to be a self-starter and take initiative because it's just in time recruiting. There are opportunities that arise in the fall, some of the general management rotational programs, which we can speak more about, post their opportunities in the fall, whereas other companies, it's well throughout the spring semester that you're gonna see job posts on a rolling basis. And so we take the responsibility upon ourselves to make sure you're aware of what those are like. We keep tabs on who's interned where so that we're aware of what the interview processes are like, and really try to connect you with people who have gone through it directly. Malika, if I missed anything there, jump in, please.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd add is, like the media industry in general is a very network-driven industry. And so it is our responsibility as the MMA to really keep track of alums who are within the space that we can interact with and bring them close to Columbia so that just incoming students can interact with them. And we really try and help source internship opportunities. I can also, I can get the next question, which is really how does the MMA support students who don't have a media and entertainment background? So there's a few things. One is, I think there are some fantastic classes at the business school itself where we have a media and technology program that is run by our faculty, Mikla Sarvari and Jonathan Nee. So would recommend making sure that those classes are really a starting place, because the guest speakers who come to these classes really give you a big overview of where the industry is headed. But as MMA, we, I think, focus a lot on understanding what are the different career paths, content distribution, content acquisition, partnership marketing. There are so many different places that you can land within the industry. So understanding functionally what it means is something that we try and do, really offer up resources. So we'll do like a one on content distribution or even TMT investing. That's something that we're trying to do very soon. So we really want to make sure that we give you resources, whether it's newsletters or industry primers. How do you really understand the industry and what's going on better? And also learning from your peers. I think that's kind of where a lot of the learning happens within the MMA is people who are coming from the industry are the best resource of knowledge.
I can take the next one. How does the MMA help identify different career paths within the media industry? So Malika touched on this a little bit in her last answer, but very early on in the year, and we just completed some of these events actually, we focus on broad industry overview events that give you sort of a bird's eye view of every sector within media that you could potentially pursue a career in, as well as function-specific roles for MBA students. So as I mentioned in my opening, there seems to be an increased interest in product management for MBA students who want to go work for media tech companies. So we've partnered with the Technology Data and Analytics Club, and we host events that will sort of unpack what it means to be a product management person within a media tech company. The same goes for things like content acquisition, distribution, corporate strategy, business development. We'll make sure you know which students have worked in those areas, which alumni have worked in those areas, and how to reach them. And, depending on the level of interest, provide actual specific events that sort of are a deep dive into what those functions mean, what skills you need to acquire, and how you get into them.
I can get the next one about the media breakfast series and the media technology program. So I said that the media technology program is led by Jonathan Nee, who is a senior advisor of Evercore, and Nicholas Sarveri. And so what we do is, I think almost every 2 weeks, we have one of our faculty actually lead a session, a breakfast with a very small group of students, so about 10 to 15. So it's very intimate. People are very open, and we do it with industry leaders. So it could be executives at LinkedIn, NBCU. We just had someone in from BET. We had somebody from TikTok. So we do it very often. So that's a little bit about the media breakfast series, and the program is really the umbrella under which the MMA and a lot of the media courses are available at Columbia.
All right, so Hannah has a question. Has the MMA ever helped facilitate a master class with a media company? Interesting. Depends, I suppose, on your definition of master class, but what we do are what I mentioned, sort of 101 educational events around specific topics. And then we also do, unfortunately now in this pandemic, virtual office visits where we connect with companies and we create intimate virtual gatherings. In the past, we actually physically went to these offices and met people and learned about what it was like to work there and what the culture was like. So that was sort of at the company level. Malika, can you think of any other type of masterclass scenario?
Yeah, so I mean, so the way I'm thinking about this is that we have a lot of case studies within, I'll just give you an example, like the sports economics and policy class that we right now have. We have people like John Skipper, Infantino. We've got some fantastic speakers who are coming in, and the way the course is structured is that you do a lot of the casework in classes. And also Jonathan Nee's course, which is the masterclass that we haven't done yet, which is the M&A in media. That's I mean, that's really what he did for a living, and now he's teaching it. But we haven't really done it with a company specifically.
Okay, Alexander, media is not the first industry that comes to mind when you think about a career switch. Would you mind sharing some anecdotes of epic switches to media industry? Great question. I mean, I think you always have a fair amount of consultants or bankers who had that experience prior to business school, for whatever reason, have decided that now they'd like to get out of it, and they enjoyed the consulting projects or banking projects that had to do with media. We have a decent number of those members in our club who, yeah, I mean, they have skills that are very, that are very attractive to media companies, but what they don't have is some of what us media folks have, which is actually being on the inside. So we're there to bridge that gap. You also have some people who, one of our board members, Tony Lashley, he, also came from a consulting background, but is now actually starting his own company that's media and music related. We have another one that's doing the same thing, that's interested in gaming. So those are some of the career switchers that come to my mind.
I'm happy to take the next question, which has to do with our connection with the music industry in New York and elsewhere. So as Alex mentioned, Tony on our board is really focused. It's a music startup that he's working on. But beyond that, I know someone last year is, I believe, Rona, and actually there are two people who ended up working at Spotify. So Spotify does have MBA internships, and we also have had executives from Warner Music come and speak to us. It may not be as extensive as kind of traditional media, especially legacy media, but there are opportunities that do come by.
Okay, Karen would like to know if we have any insights between the August term versus J term as it specifically relates for those looking to stay in the media industry. Let's see, as I said, recruiting for media takes place throughout the entire year. and potentially I would say with an emphasis on the spring semester. So if you're a J-termer, you might feel overwhelmed because it's your first semester at school and you're immediately, potentially looking into internship opportunities. Probably not for the summer because J-termers do a summer term, but maybe you're hoping to do an in-semester internship in the fall. So that's just something to consider. I think the bigger consideration for J-termers is sort of the orientation process and the cluster system that the business school puts in place. Clusters do exist for J-termers, but I think that the orientation process is more robust for that fall term and will potentially expose you to more students. But I'm actually a dual degree student, and I was a J-termer at the School of International Affairs where I'm getting my other master's degree. So, I did that for professional and personal reasons. And I think the biggest thing that I missed out on that applies to the business school as well is that fall orientation experience. But in terms of media recruiting, I think you'd be okay.
Okay, so I can get the next question about someone coming from a tech background looking to move into media and entertainment. We actually have the current president of the Tech and Data Analytics Club who interned at Hulu as a product manager. So the need for media companies to have more people with tech backgrounds, with data analytics background is increasing significantly. And that's something that we're actually trying to make sure that we can educate our peers on that. So there are a lot of opportunities. I would say, I don't know what programs we have, but we definitely are aware of it and try and incorporate a lot of tech-focused panels and discussions as much as we can within the MMA.
Okay, Sarah asks, do you have any experience of current students or alumni working in the theater industry? We have a lot of theater lovers. I know that. Off the top of my head, I am not thinking of anyone I know directly who got their MBA and went to theater. Malika looks like she might know somebody.
Yeah, I think there's one person, Josh Landy, if I'm not mistaken, but there's one person who did go into theater. I know Cara Barnett, who runs, I believe Cara Barnett runs EDs. I know it's not commercial theater, but yes, there are people who.
And we can always do some work to find you somebody. Either the admissions office or Malika and I can help try to connect you to the right alumni. Malika, do you want me to take this one?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Okay. What are the most common roles that media companies are recruiting MBAs for? So I think you've heard us talk about some of the functions for MBAs. I think the ones that we focus on in the club are corporate development, business development, product management, partnerships, analytics, marketing is another bucket. What else, Malika? Have I covered the main ones?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's TMT investing, so there's media finance, there's TMT consulting, there's also strategy, there's, it really is a whole bunch of opportunities that is possible. But yes, there are two rotational programs that we probably want to mention. So the Viacom CBS rotation program, where you come in and you spend 2 years, where you have a 6-month rotation, and you do the same with Comcast NBC. So they do have these programs that are specifically catering towards MBAs, and then you kind of like jump in and enter one of the business units in a director position.
And I would just add that I think a popular type of role that students look to recruit for is anything related to strategy. That I think that's a common MBA pursuit for media interested folks. Okay, so I'll read the next one. Austin, any collaboration with MFA film students, general Columbia population may be looking to put together projects that could benefit from a CBS perspective. So we have had a lot of interest from the MFA program, and basically where it's at right now is that we cross promote events to one another. Malika actually organized and hosted a fantastic event this summer about the South Asian media landscape that brought together a host of players from Hotstar in India, Netflix, Amazon, and MFA film students who are looking to one day have their films on those platforms. We're super interested to learn about the business perspective. I am not aware of any ongoing projects per se, but that is not to say that that can't happen, especially given our closer sort of dialogue and collaboration that we've experienced in the past 6 months.
I'm happy to get the next one, which is, what are the most popular companies that CBS students recruiting for last year? So look, I can tell you in general, like consulting and investment banking really is kind of the bulk. So I'm not sure if you're asking specifically media companies, because what we've seen is that we've had people go to NBC, we've had people at Viacom, CBS, someone's at Amazon Studios, someone's at Rain Group, which is a boutique investment fund. We've had people go to Goldman Sachs and TMT Investing, Spotify. I don't know if anyone's at HBO. I'm sure we have someone there. So maybe I think from the last year, Netflix, maybe not. Alex, anywhere else? Like, it pretty much covers the big companies.
Yeah, I mean, all the major streaming services and all the major legacy media companies. But I would also suggest, and maybe admissions can help connect you, the CMC has data on where all of us end up, both for internships and for jobs. So they can also help answer that question. I can take Davis's question. So I was wondering, what's the geographic coverage preference for these treks and talks? Is this New York heavy, or are the students exposed to other locations? Definitely exposed to other locations. So we do have a focus on East Coast office visits in the fall, but then in January we have a West Coast trek. Under more normal circumstances, that entails a group of us actually traveling to Los Angeles and staying for several days to visit these companies and meet people who work in these industries. But now it's virtual, which in some ways is advantageous, because instead of LA traffic holding up our day, we will be able to pack in more speakers and guests. And then, we've also had some interest. I mean, we're actually hosting an event tomorrow with the chief product officer of a leading German media company. And that was a direct request from one of our executive MBA students, who is the CEO and founder of his own media tech company. And he thought it would be interesting if we broadened our perspective to be more international. So we're trying to answer that desire too, and include people from other parts of the world.
I can get the next one. Hi, Puma. So the question's about internships and post-MBA roles and content strategy. How do they differ in general from the New York City landscape versus LA or the West Coast? I mean, from what I know, content strategy roles are predominantly on the West Coast. A lot of the ad sales and kind of like finance focused or strat planning teams tend to be in New York, but I would say content acquisition and strategy, at least for the big streaming platforms, tend to be on the West Coast. They're harder to get. That's what I've seen in my opinion. And Alex, you may have another opinion about this. So have we had anyone go into content strategy specifically? I don't know, maybe Michelle, who did Hulu. So we did have someone who went into content strategy. Again, she was coming from a pretty strong media background and was able to make that pivot pretty easily. And so it's one of the harder functional areas to get into, but it's possible. I would say focus on the West Coast more than the East Coast for it.
Agreed. Okay, Tanner's question. I'm interested in coming to CBS to follow media entertainment in addition to sports as a consulting practice area. Could you please speak to how you've seen the goals of your group intersect with broader consulting career goals? So yeah, like I mentioned, I mean, we have a fair amount of people who come to CBS having completed consulting experience. They enjoyed their media-related projects and then want to switch to working in-house for a media company. So we sort of try to bring them up to speed culturally about what it's like to work in a media company and make sure that they're abreast of all the various trends and entertainment news that comes out of the industry. We're always trying to co-host events with other clubs. So there is a consulting club at CBS, there's a banking club, there's a technology data analytics club, and that's really where we try to bridge the media world to those other areas, and then co-host events that speak specifically to what it's like to be a media focused consultant or an ex-consultant transitioning into media or a TMT banker, et cetera.
I can get the next question about, okay, classes and professors. I think this who has this pretty incredible company, Graphics India. He's one of my, I'm sure Alex agrees with me, one of my favorite professors, Jonathan Nee, who's coming from a media finance background. He has the master class, which is the M&A in media, as well as the sports econ and policy class, and digital investing. And then Miklos Sarveri's foundation classes. He has really, really good guest speakers. We had someone come in from Alex, did you take it like Symphony Financial Services? He had someone from Tencent come.
Sharad?
No, this was Miklos Sarveri's foundation.
No, I haven't taken it yet.
Okay, but these are pretty much the classes that I think both of us recommend.
Agreed. And you, at least for me, Malika, you cut out a little bit. So I just wanted to mention it's Sharad Devarajan's Media, Marketing, and Entrepreneurship, in case anybody else missed that. Okay, Carol, could you elaborate on the Trex? How do students participate? How does it help students land internships and job offers? So again, this year is slightly different because of the virtual nature of things. But ordinarily, we have a number of students who express their interest in attending the West Coast Trek, and we accommodate as many as possible. We have a VP of the West Coast Trek on our board. Her name is Olivia Mell. She is from the Los Angeles area, so is very well versed in the media landscape there. And she works with her AVPs to plan this trip. We also survey MMA members to make sure that we're trying to hit the companies that you are interested in visiting. And then, yeah, I mean, Olivia works with the Career Management Center with our VP of Alumni to target as many people as possible in LA who would be interested in welcoming business school students and speaking about their professional experience. On the East Coast, it's really office visits, and historically, when things have been in person, we try to keep those fairly intimate because it's a little bit more beneficial to students to travel in a smaller group. And then, I mean, you get a tour of the office. Typically, you meet with somebody on the recruiting side, you know, HR, as well as somebody who's in a business function and can speak specifically to what that's like. And then I think, how does it help students land internship and job offers? I mean, I think it's partially on you to make sure you form the right relationships and stay in touch with those contacts. But hopefully from the club side and the school side, we've given you an array of options to explore and educated you on what it takes to land those positions in the future.
I'm happy to take the next one, which is on events or initiatives for the MMA, where we've collaborated with some of the affinity groups. As Alex mentioned, over the summer, we did something with the South Asian Business Association and with actually NYU's Media and Entertainment Club on the South Asian media landscape. We did one recently with BBSA as well, which was, I believe, led by Rona Matthews, who's at Spotify now. And hopefully, you know, over the next, 3 to 6 months, we keep this going and really highlight diversity within the industry, which is extremely critical and important to both of us personally.
Malika, do you want to talk about Jonathan Nee's class for the next one?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Austin, as I mentioned, I think Jonathan Nee's class on M&A in media, it's a master class. That's one class that I recommend. Also, I mean, I'm thinking which other classes, like media and finance specific. I mean, we're trying to do as much as we can because we have a vertical where people who are interested in TMT investing. So really within the club, the MMA is trying to do more. So it's like, doing like understanding how are we looking at Netflix's valuation, and really peer-to-peer learning is kind of as much part of the CBS community as is our classes that we have.
I can take Tabir's question. How does MMA support students who have media experience, but more on the editorial creative side and are seeking to make a functional pivot to working on the business side? So this is a question that speaks to me very much because I've been on both sides and sort of view myself and my interest at being at that nexus of where creative and business meet. And I think that's the case for a lot of MMA students. So I think, people like us come to business school to sharpen our analytic skills, to understand what the consulting world is like, and why it's so attractive to employers, as well as our financial modeling skills. So, Malika and I have made a push to do more 101 sessions for people like that who need a little bit more support and guidance with some of those sort of hard skills, especially in, the tech side of things, which are more of a requirement. So yeah, I would say it's a combination of peer-to-peer learning, 101 educational events that the Media Club offers. And then of course you're going to get an education through your classwork as well. But I think that where we can really help is if there's a specific skill you want to attain, chances are we know somebody within the club who can help you attain it or point you in the right direction.
Okay, I'm going to take the next one, which, oh, sorry. Alex, can you hear me? Is my internet okay? Okay, great. So the next one is like, how can someone who has been working in media and entertainment benefit from CBS and the club if they want to stay in M&E? Like at the end of the day, as I said, like the media and entertainment industry is massive. Like there's just so many different functional areas that you could be working in. And so for me personally, I think the CBS community and just the experience of being at the business school has opened my eyes to what are all my possible option sets within the industry that I'm excited about. Whether it's tech, I think you just don't get certain opportunities when you're not in the system. And so looking at Amazon, looking at Google, looking at media partnerships within Google, I think it just like opens up a lot more opportunities. So I think it's about being open to wanting to grow in the industry that you're in and seeing what's possible. So that's my answer. Alex, I don't know if you want to add anything to it.
No, I think that was great. I mean, yeah, it speaks to what I said before, but I felt like coming to business school, I needed to sharpen some of those analytical skills and finance skills that being on the more creative side didn't afford me. And, CBS and the MMA are allowing me to do that. Malika, I feel like you're better suited to answer the next one.
Sure. I mean, I'm an international student. I'm originally from India. And I guess I don't think we did, have like, how does it specifically help international students? But I'm recruiting for media right now. And you just have to follow the same process as pretty much everyone else. I mean, whether you're, it's harder. It's just harder because it's not like consulting where they just have a lot more seats for people who are coming from business school, and certain industries are more open to hiring non-US citizens. So it's a harder route, but it's possible. I'm fingers crossed things work out for me in 9 months.
Okay, let's see the next one. What depth of offerings and alumni makeup are present within the recording industry as a result of MMA involvement and events? I'm guessing that recording industry means music. Yeah, is that your interpretation, Malika? Yeah, maybe. I don't know the actual percentage. That would be a question for admissions or for the Career Management Center. So I will let them handle that. I can tell you, and we've mentioned a few of the students who are at Spotify now, another one that's starting his own media music tech company. And we recently just had the CEO of Indify come speak, which was fantastic. Indify I don't know if you're familiar with it, but they're linking artists to sort of better management representation to help them retain, more humane rights over their IP. So music is definitely on our radar, as is sports and gaming. As everyone here knows, media is so broad. We try to cater to all of those different interests within that umbrella.
Okay, great. I'm going to get the next one about how has COVID changed the landscape? How has the MMA responded or innovated? So
Yeah.
it's been hugely impacted by COVID on the production side, but I think on the consumption side, we've done significantly better than most other industries, especially restaurants. So I would say that we're actually in a really good place. I think, as you know, it's just COVID has essentially accelerated a lot of the expectations we had. So there's just like streaming platforms are just being used a lot more. So this just means that the data that's available, like I spend my summer at Viacom CBS really looking at the smart TV business and the connected TV devices. So I think that this will continue. How has the MMA responded? I think we've done a lot to really pivot to the online event environment. I think we've been able to access a lot of executives who perhaps we wouldn't have gotten access to before. We've collaborated with other schools. We've looked at other geographies. I think that there are a lot of events that we've done that we will continue to do in this kind of new world that we're living in.
Okay, Ryan's question. Can you talk a little bit about some of the external electives at other Columbia graduate schools, film, law, journalism? Is there enough bandwidth for students to take those? Yes, there is. There is a credit limit to how many courses you can cross-register for. That's an admissions question. I don't want to misspeak on what that credit limit is. And then every specific school has its own, set of bureaucratic rules that you have to be aware of in order to get in. But we certainly have students who have taken classes, definitely in law and journalism. I think the film school is a little bit trickier to actually get permission to take a class. But I would let admissions speak to that better than I can. But in terms of bandwidth, yes, there is a certain amount of credits that are reserved for cross-registering in other schools.
Okay, great. So why would you say CBS is a good fit for a student who wants to switch into the media and entertainment industry? Okay, so I think that the most important thing is the classes that we have. I think the media and technology program offers really great classes. I think relying on some of our professors for their own networks is very helpful. I also think that I wouldn't say asides for the MMA, because most of your opportunities for recruitment, for networking comes through your peers. So I wouldn't discount it. I would actually say that MMA and the school, especially the faculty, both play a very critical role in making CBS a good fit for anyone who's looking at media and entertainment. And also, at the end of the day, we're still in New York City. It's, things may have moved virtually for the time being, but New York is a very critical place, in my opinion, for the industry.
Malika basically answered the next question from Daniel Lee about how has being in NYC helped with your MMA experience. I totally echo what Malika said. I think a benefit of attending CBS, many end up staying in New York and strategize to stay in New York. So a lot of our alumni are here in our backyard. And when the world resumes in person, the school will do everything they can to connect you with those people in person. And while we're in this virtual ecosphere, Malika and I are doing everything we can to make the most of it and sort of take advantage of that extra time people have it working from home. Which has gotten us some speakers that are, pretty top tier and executive level who may not have otherwise had the time to speak to us. But yeah, New York City is our backyard and no better place to be for media.
I think we've touched a little bit upon this, upon what are the most common roles that studio streaming services hire MBAs for. I think a lot has to do with, there's strategy, there's business development, there's corporate development. And I just want to also caveat that by saying, like, every organization and every media company out there has a different structure. So what you may see at a Disney, that's corporate strategy, might be something very different at a Hulu. So it really depends. But at the end of the day, it's really the core skills of, your modeling skills, your ability to analyze data, your ability to really problem solve, and whichever function requires those skills, that's where you can outperform.
The next question is about gaming. Do we see heightened interest in the games industry, and do you have plans to get involved with companies in that space? Absolutely. There is most definitely increased interest in gaming. If you do take Sharad Devarajan's class, he will talk about this at length, and because it's an area of growth. We have another board member, Sterling Campbell, correct me if I'm wrong, Malika, but he's starting his own gaming initiative. So most definitely. Do we have plans to get involved in companies in that space? Certainly. I mean, I think we try to answer to the needs and desires of the people. And if gaming, continues to be on the rise, we are aware of it, as is the CMC, and we will work to make sure that we're attracting speakers from those companies and hosting any relevant educational events that can bring everybody up to speed on that growth area. I think we did the classes one. Maybe we can skip that one, Malika.
Yep, I think we've done the classes. I think the next question is digital journalism or a legacy publishing organization. So I guess the question is, I'm thinking of whether it's Wired, Economist, Condé Nast, the New York Times, and seeing. I do know someone who was. There are people who've done that. I don't think in our year. Alex, do you know?
I know Emily Greenwald is on our board. She's very interested in publishing companies. She worked for one previously, but wants to re-enter in sort of a new functional role. I came from the legacy media journalism world at the New York Times. We have somebody coming towards the end of October who's from the Google News initiative. So they're certainly still, very influential players in the space. I would say the interest is slightly less than in some of the other media companies we've mentioned, but it's there. Tyler's question, do you have any current students or alumni who have moved into the film industry? Absolutely. All over the place. We have James Farrell, who's at Amazon Studios and is overseeing originals for Amazon Studios International. And several more. I feel like I'm blanking because I'm being put on the spot, but most definitely, we've sent interns to Film Nation, which is a film distribution company. We have an executive MBA who's at Gunpowder and Sky, which is a content acquisition studio. We do case competitions. We've done them in the past with Sony and Universal, I believe. So absolutely, there's inroads to the film industry.
Great. So this is a good one. I skipped ahead. So you need to, Alex, you can get Jake's question. But this question is about recruiting for strategy roles and prior consulting experience. This is a question that we are grappling with ourselves. Yes, there is a significant number. It is true that consultants tend to go into certain kinds of roles within companies because guess what? That's the experience that they have. They focus on strategy experience. They don't do operational experience. But there are many people within the industry. I think Alex and I are again, let's see what happens after business school. But it's possible. It's very much possible. It's about saying like, well, what are the what are the skill sets that I'm going to develop as a consultant, and can you do it otherwise? Because it does count if you have a lot of industry knowledge, and having media industry knowledge is also as important as having hard skills that you learn on consulting. That being said, if you're at business school, try and explore as many possible careers. Actually, I'm getting Jake's question as well, is like, yes, many people explore different paths during their time at CBS, whether it is tech is one big one, investment banking, audits consulting, and people who love media end up doing something else completely different and actually pivot back. So I'd say yes.
And we are almost out of time, so I'm going to take one more question before we wrap things up. I'm going to go with a fun one. So Sanjeev's question is, what have been your most enjoyable, memorable experiences at the MMA Club last year? I'm going to be very cheesy here, but meeting Malika was such a wonderful gift. And it speaks to the fact that like the people really are what make this club what it is. I've been so impressed with how everybody has rallied during the pandemic, and we're doing just as many, if not more, events as we would have been before. It also goes to show I didn't meet Malika until March, just because it's a big school, and the first semester you're going to be really embedded with your cluster, and then things start to open up in the spring. And Malika and I were both AVPs for the conferences. And then the conference didn't end up happening because of the pandemic. It was supposed to take place in April, and we co-host that every year with NYU. So that was canceled. But then I met Malika, and here we are today hosting this session with you guys as co-presidents of the MMA. So people really are what moves the school and every club in it forward. But with that, I will just say thank you so much for joining. I'm sorry we couldn't get to all of your questions, but we are here to help you. And I'm sure that admissions can connect you to Malika and I specifically, as well as to the MMA in general. You've got our email, mma@gsb.columbia.edu. And maybe admissions wants to close things out.
Yes, thank you so much, Alex and Malika. This was an amazing session today, and thank you so much for everyone who submitted questions. We have so many that were coming through, so I'm grateful that Alex and Malika were able to answer the ones that they were. As mentioned, their email is listed on the side of this screen here, so feel free to stay in touch with them that way. If you are interested in connecting with any current students personally, please feel free to reach out to admissions, and we are happy to connect you. But otherwise, thank you again for tuning in, and definitely stay in touch with any questions. Have a great night, morning, afternoon, wherever you might be tuning in from, and we hope to talk to you soon.